This whole idea doesn't make sense. Your document is structured the wrong way. You guys have a long way to go. That's what my lecturer told me during my last year of university. What she was referring to was the document we presented to her. It was an idea around this big competition that we're taking part of. You see, at my small marketing school, this was like the Super Bowl. It was the biggest thing that could happen. So we're separated in teams of 3. And me, being the self-appointed leader of my team, I decided that we had to assess ourselves to see how we would get to the top, how we would win, how we could go to the next round even. So assessing ourselves, I realized that we didn't really have much to offer. Me, myself, didn't have the best grades, partially dyslexic, and so on and so on and so on. But we did have one thing that would set us apart. We happened to be the only 3 black guys in the class. So there was a way that we could identify ourselves and relate to something that only we could understand, and no one else would be able to outperform us in that aspect. So that's exactly what we did. What we did is we came up with a digital innovation and a product line that was targeting black male millennials. Us. Something we could relate to, something we could understand. And just like every underdog story that you've heard, the results were incredible. We're the only team to get 90% and above in our class. We came first in South Africa, then we came first in Africa. We were flown to Paris to present our ideas to the largest beauty brand in the world, L'Oreal. And that's how we ended up working for L'Oreal. During this time is where my obsession of Africa kind of started. I've always been voting and supporting the continent, spurring it on. It's always been a part of who I am. So this is the time where I really started feeling, what is the African market like? And how do we use that kind of approach to the market and spread it across the world? Africa is the 2nd largest continent in the world. I mean, 6% of the Earth's surface is Africa. But let's not forget, Africa is plagued by hunger, poverty, disease, and conflict. But I have to say, I think this is exactly what makes it what it needs to be. And this just might be what gives us our superpower. So I'm going to take you on a journey. I want to take you on a journey with me to help reshape our idea about Africa and give you a new perspective about how we can learn from this continent as individuals and as groups of people. But there are 3 things that we need to consider. There are concepts that we need to unpack together. The term underdog. What is an underdog and why do people love them so much? Number 2, problem solving. And number 3, technology. So let's start with the first. Underdogs. So much research has been done around them, right? But the ones that really caught my attention was the research done by a man called Malcolm Gladwell. By definition, an underdog is a person or group of people that can compete in a specific situation, but are less likely to succeed or win, right? And what I want you to really captivate from this definition is that underdogs exist in certain situations, such as competitions, which means that they have to operate in spheres where there are limitation and rules. That's where they really come forth, because they're operating and competing where they have a lack of resources, but against these limitations and rules. So, Mr. Gladwell defines underdogs as something a bit different. He says that underdogs tend to outperform the top dogs when it comes to extreme situations. Now, if you're trying to understand what an extreme situation is, I think this story will be the best way to unpack that for you. Her name is Almaz Diaz. She's a 21-year-old Ethiopian trying to finish high school. Most years are hard for her, but this year is going to be particularly hard. You see, 9 months before her final exam, Almaz falls pregnant. But she decides nothing's going to stop her from reaching her goals, chasing her dream of becoming an engineer. So the day comes. It's her exam day. And as the odds have it, Almaz goes into labor. She gives birth to a beautiful little boy. And just 30 minutes later, what did she do? She sits up on a chair, grabs a pen, and writes her final exam right there in the hospital. To everyone's surprise, Amaz gets a distinction. And obviously the world is captivated by this story and they're asking, how were you able to operate under such harsh conditions and get the result? Her answer was, during my pregnancy, I was uncomfortable sleeping at night. So I used that time to study. So this is the type of thinking that Mr. Gladwell says underdogs have. It's something that they carry in their character. He says that underdog strategies are generally much harder to pull off. They require more effort, more thought, and more commitment. But when executed properly, they tend to be extremely, extremely effective. So lesson we can learn here is if you are trying to approach a situation like an underdog, you have to be able to do 3 things correctly. Number 1, you have to be able to embrace adversity and sometimes even encourage it. Number 2, you have to be able to look at a problem and find a solution in a way that no one else would even imagine. Something so far-fetched that people wouldn't even consider pulling it off. And number 3, you have to never give up. If you've ever stepped on the African continent, I would encourage you or even challenge you to find a street or a corner or a city that doesn't have these 3 characteristics burned at its core. I've never seen a group of people that just refuse to give up like Africans. No matter what the cost, we always choose survival, whatever it takes. So this paints a picture about Africa being a place where we can solve complex problems at a granular level. People on a daily basis are solving these problems in order to survive. But if we're solving complex problems, then why are we not globally the top dogs or being recognized as the biggest economies of the world? I think it has to do with the type of problems we're choosing to solve. You see, complex problems are not always valuable problems, but valuable problems are always complex problems. So if we change our perspective and look towards solving valuable problems, I think that's where things will spark. You'll see the light of Africa come and shine throughout the world. And we've seen this happen before. It's happened in Asia. In 1978, on the 18th of December, China's new president decided we are going to do a new economic reform. We're going to open China to the rest of the world and become the hub where people come solve problems. And that's what made China so great today. That's what started the Reformation. But there's a very important part of this puzzle that we have to remember. We can't forget it. And that is the part where technology plays a part. Technology was created to drastically improve the speed of solving problems. That's what it was made for. It was made so that we could solve valuable problems, mostly being complex problems, and be able to do that at scale. And that's why we see these big companies like Facebook, Amazon, creating so much wealth because they're solving problems at scale. So now when you look at a continent like Africa, where technology is just starting, or you can just see the glimpse of what Africa could be in the context of the future and with the help of technology, it becomes extremely exciting because it's not like China in 1978. Technology has changed completely. And I think that's what's going to make Africa take the biggest steps forward. In January 2020, I quit my job and founded my first business. The idea, the method, the approach to solve problems. More specifically, to make life simpler for Africans. If you've ever shopped online and ordered something and had no idea when it was going to arrive or if it was even going to arrive, you understand the frustration, right? That is the frustration that millions of Africans face every single day when they shop online. So we came up with a concept. We said, if we can take hundreds of freelance drivers and couriers and put them onto one platform that allow them to do same-day deliveries for a lot of e-commerce companies, we would sort of fix our problem because we would be able to track those deliveries or those orders. And that's exactly what we did. And that's how Chomi was born. And today, We're facing the same problems these huge companies are facing, Uber, DoorDash, and the likes. We're facing exactly the same problems, but in our position as the underdogs, we don't have the resources to take them on. But we have no choice. We have no choice but to come up with solutions that will help us take us where we need to be. So, one of the biggest problems that we faced was being able to motivate our drivers. So it's hard to take people from their individual lives and put them into your business, give them a freelance structure, and expect them to work the way you would like them to work. And this is a global problem. The rest of the companies will agree with me. So we had to find a way to be able to do this without throwing lots of money at it, because we simply don't have it. We're on the brink of launching a new technology, an AI bot that will communicate with our drivers and ask them questions like, what is your goal for the week? How much money would you like to make? And also, what's your availability? What is your calendar like? These are the type of solutions that we need. Can you imagine these types of solutions carried all around Africa? Can you imagine the type of impact it will have? You see, the world is forever changing, and it's becoming more demanding, more challenging than ever before. We need to start looking at new places to find solutions that we couldn't even imagine. And places like Africa as a blank canvas, we can use that to paint the picture of the world that we want to have. So here's my challenge to you. Together, let's change the narrative around Africa. Let's challenge ourselves to stop looking at it as a place with just a problem, to a place with people who can solve complex problems, people who can come up with solutions. Let's rally it as our global underdog, the place that we put in the front line and we say that these are the people that can achieve it. So if we can do that, we'll be able to change the narrative of ourselves and identify as problem solvers. When we identify as problem solvers, we will stop seeing ourselves as the problem. And I believe that is an idea worth sharing. Thank you.